Well, day 5 of the ANC National Policy Conference is currently underway in Johannesburg. For the latest details and developments, let's cross over to my colleague Stefani and get a bit at our Nasrec studios
from our studios in Nasrec, where the 5th ANC Policy Conference is taking place. It is the 5th day as well, and we are bringing you all the latest updates and some intriguing discussions surrounding the big topics of the ANC Policy Conference.
Well, joining us right now in the studio is Mshengu, the ANC Youth League chairperson for the KZN branch. A very good, good afternoon to you right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thanks for having us.
Now, just talk us through the Youth League's agenda and expectations regarding the policy conference.
Well, from the Youth League side, firstly, is that we're expecting this policy conference of the ANC to come up clearly on policy positions that must guarantee the bright future for young people. We think we are running against time, and the ANC can no longer afford to be ambiguous on critical policy position that must actually give birth to the brighter future of our young people. So as the ANC Youth League, we have been here in full force in all commissions, participating and pushing forward our policy positions.
Well, President Jacob Zuma also pointed out that South Africa is becoming increasingly young, the citizens of South Africa. So with this in mind and the current unemployment rate, has the discussions around youth unemployment been sufficient and robust enough to actually increase the employment rate in the youth?
We have been very robust in terms of pushing our views and proposals as the ANC Youth League in terms of capping the unemployment affecting young people. But our view is that we must not only focus on trying to create opportunities within the state for young people, because we're dealing with quite a number of contingents of young people. That is why we also want to venture into a business space to say young people can no longer be only sellers of labor. They must also be given business opportunities so that they are able to create more employment. That is our view as the Youth League that we have been canvassing here as part of radical economic transformation, because in our view, that is the agenda that speaks about the future of our country. And you can't speak about the future outside securing the employment of young people.
Just talking about incorporating young people into becoming business owners, there was an issue mentioned in the breakfast briefing this morning about the 700 billion rand that's lying unused in the financial sector. Do you think the ANC will actually get to a point where they're forcing that 700 billion rand to be released or, used to invest in young people specifically?
That's what we're pushing as the ANC Youth League. Look, it doesn't make sense to sit with such huge amounts of money not investing to where it matters most. Mm-hmm. Young people have business ideas, and those business ideas are just short of funds and the guaranteed market. That is why, as the ANC Youth League, part of the things that we are pushing here is an implementation of the resolution to establish a state bank that will be developmental in its orientation. Look, the 4 or so commercial banks that are currently dominating the space now are more consumption driven. That is why when you go for a loan of a car, it will be easy to get such a loan. But when you go and present a business idea, they will tell you of all sorts of hiccups that will basically make you unable to access such a loan. So we're thinking that with a state bank that is developmental in its orientation, it will be able to find business ideas of young people, and then we'll be able to make a decisive dent against the unemployment that is affecting our young people. So we're also calling the ANC to be decisive in calling the private capital to invest such billions of rands so that we basically stabilize our economy, because youth unemployment remains a threat to the economy and social stability of our country. So stability of the country is not only in the interest of the ANC-led government, but also of the private capital. So we are calling all of us to join hands in curbing this unemployment of young people.
Well, we've touched upon the businesses and young people actually starting their own businesses. Let's go to those young people that actually go to a university, they study, they get a degree, and from personal experience, I can tell you it is difficult, even with a degree, to get a job. So what other ideas do you have, or what has been said in the policy conference to actually help those individuals and even those without a degree to get a job maybe in the government sector or outside of the government sector?
Part of the policy proposals that we have been pushing vigorously in the commissions is to do away with the requirement of experience in all entry-level posts in government and in the private sector, because there is an increasing army of young people sitting at home with qualification, but they can't get employed because they lack experience. Now, our view is that you don't buy experience anywhere. You can go anywhere, but you can't get a shop where you buy experience. Now, we must be deliberate in giving experience to these young people. So we're saying in all entry-level posts in government, in the private sector, do away with the requirement of experience, but rather focus on the job training so that in few years' time we can then say young people are much experienced and then they can go up the ladder so that they also give space for others to come in.
One of the issues that came out in the breakfast briefing this morning by, I think it was Mr. Mkhize, was that there's no point in training people for jobs that don't exist. So there needs to be a balance or a match between the training programs and skills development programs as well as the job opportunities that are actually available out there. What do you have to say about that?
We fully agree with that. We need a thorough analysis of the market so that we don't produce something that is irrelevant. There's quite a number of people, young people, trained, but you then find that their training is not required by the economy. So we're saying we need to move away from the tendency of just training young people for the sake of ticking the box, that we have trained so much young people and then report. We want young people to be trained on the demands of the economy so that they also take full part. You know, our position is that as part of diversifying the economy, young people must enter into the space of ownership and control of the economy. So if they don't have necessary requisite skills that correspond with the economic demands, then we will not be able to achieve such. So we agree with the point that don't train young people as a form of charity. Train them so that they participate meaningfully in the economy of our country.
Well, radical economic transformation has been a topic of great discussion here at the ANC Policy Conference. Now, looking at the youth, we are going to grow up, we're going to be the older people of the South African population. So has the discussions around radical economic transformation actually been enough to ensure that the youth of today will not be the same as the youth, or the youth of tomorrow will not be the same as the youth of today and sit with the same problems, perhaps, that we are sitting with?
We think we are finding each other on what should constitute radical economic transformation. Part of our proposal has been that we need to reindustrialize our economy. We need to beneficiate the raw materials that are extracted from our country so that we are not an exporter of raw materials. That will allow industries to flourish. That will allow young people to become black industrialists. That will allow even young people who are not necessarily skilled to form part of the constituency that is working. So we think that emerging from this conference and with the decisiveness that we want to see post this conference and post the national conference in December, we will be talking a different story come 2018, 2019, where young people will now see themselves getting into the space of economic participation, getting employment, because what we think in some instances lack is political will. Which we have also been gunning for in this conference, to say we need to be decisive. We need to be very robust in creating opportunities for young people and South Africans in general. We don't subscribe to these things to say you can't do this because the markets will react. We stand with the people. We're an organization that was formed to serve the people. So we need to find a balance between the demands of the people and the expectations of the market. We can't be driven by the markets, but we must be driven by the demands of the people. Hence our radical call for expropriation of land without compensation. Because we believe that we have been negotiating for the past 23 years to say land must be restituted to the people so that young people also can venture into agriculture, as an example, as part of capping employment for young people. So we think we are finding sufficient consensus to say we need to expropriate land without compensation so that you meet your target first. Because the issue of the land is no longer an assumption. People demand land and they want it now. So as a revolutionary party in government, we can no longer ignore that fact, and we can no longer negotiate with people who want to frustrate the transformation agenda.
Now, just sticking with the theme of radical economic transformation, do you think that it is encapsulated in the NDP, and will achieving the NDP and Vision 2030 goals actually sort of be a good blueprint to achieving radical economic transformation goals? We
think there need to be some refinement of the NDP to speak to the more pronounced explanation of radical economic transformation, which speaks about ownership, control of the commanding heights of the economy. If you look into the NDP, it speaks about diversifying the economy and creating more employment. Now, our position is that radical economic transformation must mean meaningful participation of the majority in the ownership, control, and the institutions of the economy, so that Africans in particular, who constitute the majority in our country and the historically disadvantaged, are not only confined to be sellers of labor. We want Africans to run the economy. We want Africans to be owners of this economy, to control this economy, so that there is equality. Because one of the things that will not be able to deal with insofar as social cohesion is concerned is when people have a different access to opportunities, when your skin color still determines whether you can have this access or that particular access. So we think that dealing with the economy will also attend to other societal problems that we are facing.
Well, I have one more question for you before we let you go. It's concerning the new mining charter. I want to know from your side, from the ANC Youth League side, what do you think this mining charter will mean to the youth of South Africa and to those people that actually want to get a foot in the mining industry, but indeed it is difficult? So what do you think this new mining charter will mean?
We support fully. And our understanding is that even those who raise concern, they raise the concern of process, but not of the content as presented by the Minister of Minerals. So we support the changes that have been made, because it will allow more young people, more Africans, more black people to enter the space that has been an exclusive enclave of the white monopoly capital. So as part of dealing a decisive blow on the concentration of the economy into the hands of the few, we support the changes in the mining charter. But we're also happy that even the communities where these mining take place will now benefit. They will not only be benefiting through employment, they will be benefiting through ownership. So we are very happy, and we are canvassing that the ANC must come out clear in terms of supporting the changes. If there are issues about the process, let's address the process, but don't dispute the content, because it serves the interests of the majority of our country.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in studio. That was the ANC KwaZulu-Natal chairperson, Mr. Mshengu. It's now back to Matapela Moloya in our Midrand studios.